In June 2015, on a public bus in Rio de Janeiro, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt named Bruno Nunes saw a gunman robbing passengers. Nunes was 37, a coach at Ipanema Fight Academy. He had trained jiu-jitsu most of his adult life. According to his brother, who later spoke to Brazilian newspaper O Dia, Nunes saw an opening and decided to attempt a rear naked choke from behind to disarm the robber. The rear naked choke is the most reliable submission in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. In the gym, against a trained partner, it is nearly automatic. The robber turned and shot him in the head before the choke was set. Nunes died instantly. He left 3 children behind. This is not a video about bad martial arts. Every system on this list is legitimate. Every technique is taught by qualified instructors to serious students. But inside each system lives at least one technique that will get a trained practitioner badly hurt because it works perfectly in the gym and fails precisely when it matters. Welcome to Martial Road, where warriors live forever. If you want to go deeper than the documentary, the Martial Road membership is now open. Link in the description. Every entry on this list fails by one of 3 mechanisms. The compliance trap, a technique that only works when a partner cooperates. The adrenaline failure, a technique requiring fine motor control, that the body shuts down above 145 beats per minute, or the wrong range. A technique designed for a specific distance or context that real violence rarely provides. We are not counting down bad martial arts. We are counting down the specific techniques that good systems teach, that practitioners over-rely on, and that fail at the worst possible moment. That is a different and more dangerous problem. Boxing produced the spinning backfist. It works. Nassim Hamed landed it. Leonard Garcia made a career of it. In competition, with a referee with space to commit and recover, it is a genuine weapon. The failure mechanism is commitment. A spinning backfist requires you to turn your back to the opponent for approximately half a second, which is long enough for 2 punches to land. You are facing the wrong direction, with no vision of the threat. In competition, this is a calculated risk. In a street fight, where there may be a second person, where the floor is uneven, where there is no referee to stop a follow-up, that half second is catastrophic. The technique is not wrong. The context is. Trained fighters who use it outside competition frequently discover this the hard way. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the most pressure-tested grappling systems in human history. The Flying Armbar, jumping to lock an opponent's extended arm from a standing position, is a legitimate submission technique. It has been landed in the UFC. Ronda Rousey built her entire career on armbar variations. The Flying Armbar fails by the compliance trap. It requires the opponent's arm to be extended at a specific angle, at a specific moment, for a sufficient duration to complete the jump. Cooperative drilling makes this feel achievable. Against a resistant opponent who does not extend his arm on schedule, the jump puts you airborne, with no ground connection, no base, and no submission. Just a body flying at a person who has not cooperated. BJJ practitioners, who have only drilled this in the gym, have discovered that it works exactly as often as the opponent decides to make it work. Aikido and Hapkido are legitimate systems with genuine combat history. The wrist lock, kote geishi, the outward wrist turn, and its variations, is a real technique. Wrist locks appear in judo, in military combatives, in law enforcement training. They work when applied with speed and precision against an unprepared grip. The failure is adrenaline. A wrist lock entry requires the practitioner to feel and exploit a very specific mechanical angle in the opponent's wrist joint. That feeling requires fine motor sensitivity, above 145 beats per minute, which is where most real confrontations happen within seconds. Fine motor sensation degrades significantly. The practitioner cannot feel the angle. The technique stalls. They are now holding someone's wrist with both hands in close range, and no follow-up. This is the adrenaline failure in its clearest form. The technique is real. The human nervous system under stress cannot reliably execute it. 3 down, 7 to go. And we haven't reached the techniques actively taught as self-defense, but never pressure tested against anyone who did not want to be thrown. Taekwondo is an Olympic sport with one of the most sophisticated kicking curricula in any combat system. The jump kick. In all its variants, the flying side kick, the jumping spinning heel kick is a legitimate scoring technique in competition. The wrong range failure is immediate. Jump kicks require distance, enough runway to generate height and rotation before the kick lands. Competition fighters maintain this distance by rule. In a real confrontation, a person can simply step forward into the jump and the kick either misses or lands with no power. Worse, the practitioner is airborne, one-legged, with no base, being walked into by someone who has not stopped moving. The jump kick is a technique built for a specific distance that real confrontations almost never provide. The double leg takedown is the foundation of wrestling's dominance in MMA, battle-tested, deeply ingrained through thousands of repetitions. It fails in specific contexts that competition never presents. The shot requires open floor in the direction of travel. It requires ground that does not punish the person on the bottom, which most street surfaces do. And completing it exposes the back of the head to anyone else nearby for the full duration of the attempt. It is a technique so strongly reinforced through competition that practitioners default to it under stress in situations where that default is exactly wrong. Multiple traditional systems, various karate styles, certain kung fu lineages, and some dim mak traditions include strikes to specific nerve clusters as primary self-defense techniques. The theory is correct. The human body has vulnerable nerve concentrations, and strikes to them cause involuntary reactions. The failure is the combination of precision and compliance. Hitting a nerve cluster the size of a coin on a moving person who is trying to hit you requires accuracy that competition fighters who spend thousands of hours hitting much larger targets frequently cannot achieve. Against a genuinely resistant opponent at full speed, the strike misses the point by centimeters and hits muscle instead. This is the compliance trap and the adrenaline failure together. The technique requires both a cooperative setup and fine motor precision under pressure. 5 down, the next 3 will get the most argument because they come from systems with the strongest competition records in the world. This brings us back to the bus in Rio. Bruno Nunes was attempting this exact technique when he was killed. The rear naked choke is the single most effective fight-ending submission in sport grappling. It requires no strength once properly set. It cuts blood flow to the brain and produces unconsciousness in seconds. It is the most common submission finish in UFC history. The failure is the setup, not the technique. The rear naked choke requires full back control, both hooks in, chest to back, the choking arm under the chin and fully locked. Achieving that specific position against a resisting, panicked person on uneven ground, potentially in clothing, is far more difficult than competition training suggests. Partial back control, one hook. Imperfect position produces a stall. The practitioner is now attached to the back of a person who is not submitting and can still move, strike, fall backward onto concrete, or be joined by someone else. The choke itself is nearly perfect. The belief that you can reliably achieve competition quality position under real conditions is the dangerous part. Muay Thai is the most pressure-tested striking art in existence. The roundhouse kick is its signature weapon. High roundhouse kicks to the head have produced some of the most spectacular knockouts in combat sports history. The failure is range and commitment. A head-height roundhouse requires a very specific distance, approximately one leg's length from the target. In real confrontations, that distance collapses faster than competition training prepares for. Too close, and the kick wraps without power, or arrives with the knee rather than the shin. And for the duration of the kick, the practitioner is standing on one leg with full commitment to a limb that is airborne. Against a trained opponent who simply steps in, the kick either misses, or the thrower goes to the ground. Muay Thai fighters know this, and train the clinch as the answer to a failed kick. Practitioners who learn the kick but not the counter, and not what happens when it fails do not. The knife hand strike, the chop, appears in virtually every traditional striking system. In demonstrations, it is fast and convincing. Boards break. In film, it drops opponents instantly. Against a resistant human being, The chop lands on whichever part of the body the opponent presents, which is rarely the neck, the actual target. It lands on the trapezius, on a raised forearm. Against those surfaces, a chop delivers approximately the impact of a stiff slap. Force is real, damage is minimal. The practitioner is now in close range, having used their primary technique, with no visible effect. As a self-defense technique against a resistant, aware attacker, it is the compliance trap at its most dangerous. Before we get to #1, channel membership is open. 2 tiers. The inner circle, loyalty badges, custom emoji and comments, member shoutouts, and members-only shorts that never go on the main feed. The War Council and everything in the inner circle, plus 24 to 48 hour early access to every video before public release, members-only polls deciding what we cover next, and priority comment replies on every upload. Join link is in the description. If you've been watching for a while, this is how you go deeper. Now, #1. #1 is not a single technique from a single system. It is a category of technique that appears in traditional karate, in some kung fu systems, in older judo groundwork, and in entry-level BJJ self-defense curricula. It is the choreographed ground defense. The choreographed ground defense teaches a practitioner what to do when they are on the ground, and an opponent is standing over them. The defender pulls guard, controls the attacker's legs, executes a sweep or an ankle lock. The attacker is immobilized or brought to the ground, threat neutralized. The failure is total. Every assumption embedded in a choreographed ground defense is false in real conditions. The attacker does not step into guard. He kicks. He does not stand still. He moves. He is not alone. The ground is not a mat. There is no tap. And the defender, who has trained this technique hundreds of times, against a cooperative partner, experiences a total mismatch between what their training prepared them for and what is actually happening. This is why choreographed ground defense is #1. Not because it is the most dangerous on this list, but because it is the most widely taught, the most confidently performed, and the most completely dependent on an opponent who has read the same script. Every other technique on this list fails in a specific context. This one fails in every real context it will ever encounter. 10 techniques, 10 legitimate systems, 10 failures that happen not because the practitioners are untrained, but because they trusted their training further than it was designed to go. The lesson is not to abandon your system. It is to know exactly where it stops working and to train for what comes after. Tell us in the comments which entry surprised you most. And if you train in one of these systems, tell us how you address it. Stay strong, stay informed. Subscribe to Martial Road.